Thank you for the opportunity. Dick Jensen from Omaha, a fellow Nebraska University supporter. A rather convoluted question. I'm very interested in your recent purchase and your future intention of American Express. And as I understand the company, I know it's a rather involved and complicated and rather expansive company insofar as it has its interests in many areas. I know one of which, of course, is the credit card, but there is also the major part of the organization of IDS and others that I don't even know about. And I wondered what your hopes are for that investment. And I also, just recently, as perhaps you have, became curious to know if you are personally acquainted with Mr. Phil Carre, I believe his name is, and how about the purchase of his firm in your future? Thank you.
Dick, I think Phil Carre is here today. But Phil,
he's right back there.
Phil, would you stand up? There he is. Give him a hand. Phil is 98. I first met him in 1952, 43 years ago. He attends every eclipse around the world, and you can run into him in some very strange places. Wrote his first book on securities, I believe, in 1924. Am I right on it, Phil? Yeah. And wrote an autobiography here recently. Probably the greatest long-term investment record in this country's history. And but I think my impression is that Phil sold part or a good bit of Pioneer some years ago, which he managed for decades, many decades. In fact, I first learned about Phil when I was leafing through Moody's Banks and Finance Manual 40-odd years ago, and I saw this company with this great record and with some securities that looked terribly interesting. So we got in touch, and he was out in Omaha, and we got acquainted. So anybody that can get Phil to talk to him, listen carefully. I advise that. The question about American Express, we own just under 10% of American Express, and obviously, even though you mentioned there in a number of businesses, by far the key, the most important factor in American Express's future for a good many years to come, great many years to come, will be the credit card, and that is a business that has become and will forever probably become ever more competitive. I mean, I've followed it since I think I met Ralph Schneider at the Diners Club in the late 1950s, and American Express entered into the credit card business out of fear. I mean, they were worried about what the credit card was going to do to their traveler's check business. Traveler's check business had been originated back in 1890 something, I believe, and that was in turn building off of the old express business, where I think it was Henry Wells and William Fargo. They would chain themselves to the express boxes as they delivered them through to the West, and they decided that maybe issuing traveler's checks would be a little easier than carrying all this stuff around. So the traveler's check was evolved out of the express business, and the credit card business with American Express arose out of fear of what particularly Diners Club at the time. They were all terrified of Diners Club, which got the jump on everybody, and they became enormously successful with it. And the American Express card, as you know, had a terribly strong position in what they call the travel and entertainment part of the card business. And of course, the banks entered in on a big scale, and Visa's been enormously successful. So the card has a strong franchise in certain areas, like the corporate card, although people like First Bank Systems are very aggressive in going after them there. The card has a significant franchise, but it does not have the breadth of franchise that it had many years ago. For a while, it was the card, and now it's the card in certain areas, but nothing like as broad an area as before. It has certain very important advantages and economic strengths, and it has some weaknesses. And you have to assess those in deciding where it'll be in the year 2000 or 2005. And we think that the management of American Express thinks well about the question of how you keep the card special in certain situations, and they've reacted to the merchant backlash for higher discount fees, I think, in an intelligent way. So we'll see how it all plays out. But the key, IDS, which has now been renamed, but is a very big part of American Express, accounts for close to a third of their earnings. But the real key will be how the card does over time. Charlie?
Nothing to add.